We know if Mr. Everman is
Haven't
coming.
heard anything.
Haven't heard anything.
I'll count.
All right. Okay, I'll call this meeting of the Board of Appeals to order. First off, does anyone contemplate the need to abstain from voting on any of the issues tonight?
No.
No. Who was out to see the properties? I was. You were out to see all of them? Yeah.
I did not.
Nor I.
I did drive past the item 1, the Edgewood Drive one, so I have seen that. Did you speak with anyone regarding the variance requests before us tonight?
No.
All right, thoughts on the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of last meeting?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to approve the minutes from last meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. All right, we'll get right down to business. We'll start with the old business, the Grunzes. Do you care to come forward?
An extra R in there.
Did I put an extra R in?
Well, yeah, it's just guns.
Well, in my defense. Okay,
First of all, I apologize for not getting a permit ahead of time. We thought the contractor that was doing the work for us was gonna get the permit, but he didn't. So we had him pour these, we replaced the driveway because it was really in bad condition. And while we're replacing it, we wanted to make it wider. The reason being is it's a single stall and it's, there's no parking on this side of the street for people. And a lot of times, actually, the grass in front of the walkway really was never there because the kids would always park their bikes in that, so they never could really get grass to grow there. And how many duplexes are on that street? Did you know? 18, and out of the 18, like a dozen of them had the exact same layout where they widened the driveway. So I guess, I assume there wasn't a problem, but.
so basically you wanted to get a little more space.
Yeah.
Maybe clean up some mud. You hired somebody, between you and your contractor, you didn't realize that anything was different because other people had it the same way.
Correct.
The principal mistake you may have made was not getting a permit in advance, but your contractor didn't help you out that way, huh?
No.
Okay. Okay, now you had made some arguments that people have to cross the street on this, and this was one of the reasons why you wanted to get the extra parking. I did not realize that only part of Edgewood you can park on. Is it your side here, this side?
No, the other side.
The other side you can't park on?
No, this side you can't park, on the
Okay,
duplex side.
yeah, duplex, okay. All right, I think I know pretty well what your situation is. Any other questions, guys?
Just curious, we did have communication, I think, from the alderman wanted to address this question, so that was all I
Right.
wanted to hear.
Yeah. Alderman Nicholson, did you care to say anything on this?
Yes, I am not supporting this. That whole area is very dense, trying to keep everything uniform, and it's a struggle. Basically, I mean, yes, there are duplexes or like that, and, I mean, people have gotten away with it, either coming to the Board of Appeals in the past, before I was alderman, but I'm trying to keep it unified as much as possible in accordance to the ordinance, and trying to keep the density down, and I don't know, is there a hardship to this? I mean, what's wrong with the garages that are available right now?
Is it a goal of yours to pursue actions or otherwise against some of the other duplexes along the street that have the same
I've
situation?
been trying, Mr. Chairman, yes.
So that is a goal of yours?
Yes, I've been working on this, and the area over by Abram Street, that I believe at least one address has come in front of you on Abram Street, and I have the same issues. It's basically the density and also just keeping everything uniform. I mean, it's just too many people. That's one of the issues, is too many people living in the duplex, you know, because of parking issues. Just trying to keep it looking presentable, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
So I'm against it. I believe Inspector Meaves gave orders to remove it, and I support the inspector in the city of Green Bay on his orders. And, you know, if there was some type of hardship, but I don't see a hardship. So that's my 2 cents worth,
All
Mr.
right,
Chairman.
all right. Questions for the Alderman? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Sir?
I have a point on this matter here. Does the ordinance allow gravel to extend beyond that area where they have it paved?
Well, that's an interesting point, because they shouldn't have paved it at all by the ordinance.
I understand that, but
But
my
let's say
question
that
is,
they could, and then is your question whether or not there can be gravel?
my question is if they would have put gravel where it was paved, would that have been acceptable?
They're not supposed to park in that area.
That
So no.
doesn't answer my question. though.
You can't put gravel, Mr. Chairman.
Is that the case, Paul?
Correct. Had to be an all-weather surface, a solid surface.
So no gravel would be permittable.
Gravel is not allowed as a parking surface in the city of Green Bay.
There are some gravel parking surfaces that existed in the
Years
past
ago,
that haven't
yes.
been paved yet. but-
Sure, those are not conforming.
I ask because I've seen a lot of homes that have similar areas where instead of paving, they put the gravel and they seem to get away with it. And to me, for your uniformity point, a paved surface looks better than gravel. That's why I was asking.
Yep, okay.
Paul, in terms of the other, I mean, we've all seen the aerial of this neighborhood here, whether on, you know, maps or satellite photo or something like that, and you can tell there are quite a few drives, some duplexes of the same configuration where they've widened the driveway for additional parking to have 4 cars essentially parked side by side in front of the house. Do you know how many of those were done by approval of either our predecessors on the Board of Appeals or in some other way done with approval? Or are the vast majority of them not legal?
Difficult to say. I have not surveyed the area to know that for a fact, if they've been done with a permit, without a permit, with a variance, I couldn't say for sure. Except that it's a flaw of the design of these two families. If those garages are so close together, it really doesn't present an ability to widen the
I think it
driveway.
was probably different car ownership patterns when those were built or something
Sure.
like that, right? But the challenge is, I know that in the time I've been on this group, there's been requests that have gone both ways in terms of some approved and some not approved. And it seems like this is an issue around parking that, you know, is maybe beyond our ability to grapple with, and at some point needs to be addressed with either more action, some reaffirming, or some other, you know, sort of design work or something. But it's just a struggle here because, as some of these others have said, I don't see the hardship. You know, you need more spaces to park. That's not necessarily a hardship. The biggest hardship I see for you is that you've paid to pave it and you may have to remove it. You know, that's the toughest part of this equation, you know, in my book. But I'm just struggling for something here because I don't think that all of the ones that are 4 cars wide have been done without approval of City Hall.
Yes, sir.
Just, Mr. Halverson had an interesting question, how many of these duplexes have been approved through the city? I know of 2, and the hardship was, and this was years ago, The hardship was it's a home for handicapped individuals, and they approved it. That was years ago. And across the street, there was another one for handicaps, individuals, special needs.
Like to have a wider space for the
Right.
car.
And because of the
Because of using a
wheelchair.
wheelchair or something.
Right. Group home, that's why I wanted to say.
Okay.
One was a group home, the other one was a gentleman who was handicapped.
Paul, was this a complaint raised by someone?
Yes.
Is the process then that if the planning office receives a complaint of that nature, that you send out an inspector to see if it's legit?
Right.
The complaint is legit.
Right, the inspector will visit the property, investigate, and then report back. If there's a violation, they'll let the property owner know that they're in violation, have to take corrective measures by a certain date to get it done with.
When the inspector is out there, should he look and see if there are other similar violations on that street, or perhaps next door, or?
I think the inspector who is out there has been around for a number of years, so he knows the area very well, but typically we respond to one complaint. Our director from the council is looking to respond to complaints. So I don't think he's looking for others necessarily, he's looking at this property by itself.
When any of your inspectors are out and about and they see a violation of this nature, can they raise the issue? Or does it have to come from a complaint to your office?
It can come as a complaint, and those could come in through a phone call, they can be done via the internet. So I can't speak for all the inspectors. If they find something that is in violation, that they may put their own complaint in, I can't speak for them, I can't say that occurs, except that they respond to complaints.
Isn't there also a program though by the city where the inspectors go through a section of town and give people guidance as far as peeling paint or driveway with a mix of gravel and concrete?
Yeah, we've done those in the past. I don't think they've been done recently. They've been some kind of proactive inspections, really.
Right.
More of a courtesy to help out neighbors, like you said, but I don't think that's been done in a while.
Yeah, I seem to recall getting one of those from you guys.
Yeah.
That was a while ago.
So as Noel brings up, this is gonna come up again and again, so I'm gonna take advantage, Mr. Alderman, of having you here. How do we go about, part of the justice that could be meted out here is that there be some observation and rectification of the violations on the rest of the street.
I've been trying, Mr. Chairman, you probably see maybe more.
But how do we do it? Apparently, this works, a complaint, these people have to pay some money, come before us and present their case. Is that the only mechanism by which these can happen, or can the city proactively take it on themselves?
Well, the inspector gave orders to remove it. I guess that's the power of our inspector. To override the inspector and our ordinances, you come to the Board of Appeals, and that's where this committee can grant a variance or not. That's the only basically two alleys that I know of.
Okay.
But I guess, like I said before, the other duplexes that I know of had hardship cases. I don't see a hardship here.
It's a rental property, what if next month we have a handicapped person coming in?
Then you might have a different argument.
And you might have a different argument.
Did anybody think of a safety factor at all or not? You know, like I mentioned before, you can put one car in the garage on the driveway. They have to park on this side of the street only. And in winter you can't because of snow plowing. They have to cross the road all the time.
There's a sidewalk, we can't park two cars.
I mean, there's a safety factor more involved than anything else. That's what I'm worried about.
What about the garage?
There is a safety
Well,
factor in
They got
it.
kids in there.
Part
and
of
they
the
got-
reason,
Did you see their dumpsters that they have their garbage disposal bins?
Trash.
Then maybe they should look at a larger dwelling then.
They got small cars, as you can see, and their other cars are smaller than that.
Okay, I'm trying to keep the neighborhood uniform, trying to keep the density low. I guess that's my job, and that's how the people put me in office. Because these are one of the issues that surfaces, people that drive through there, that live behind there. I receive numerous complaints on how the duplexes are looked on, I mean, basically examples of the duplexes of parking, and there's other issues. But right now it's parking, and I do receive a lot of complaints from people that drive by, that live in the neighborhoods behind there on that side and the other. So I'm trying to keep this place, the Edgewood, the Abrams, there's a couple other streets also, uniformed and trying to keep the density low. It's one of the issues of the residents that have provided me information, complaints, as an alderman.
Okay.
And, you know, before you start digging up the driveways and that, I mean, the cities do have ordinances. So, I mean, if I was gonna do like a fence or something, I'd go down to, if I had a place in DePere or Hilbert or Wrightstown or wherever, I'd see what their ordinances are of a fence, a driveway, and an addition, and so forth. I mean, I would do my homework and find out and get the right permits, so I wouldn't have issues. But, I mean, that's my opinion.
Tom, you had an observation you wanted to bring in?
Well, bringing up the issue of safety, and Noel, I would maybe point out that every case that we've had before us where a vehicle is in a position to block an entrance, we have requested that the concrete be removed because it presents a hazard to the police officers who may have to enter the building or the fire department for rescue purposes. And I would say that's one particular instance where we've been fairly adamant about not having a vehicle blocking the front door. And, you know, I'm sorry that there's other people who have gone ahead and made their own modifications, but I'm looking for the here and now and my responsibility to who I see, the police department and fire department, and I think that constitutes a safety hazard. I mean, I took that photo to show folks exactly what we're talking about here. Not, you know, not to be an over-stickler on the rules, but looking at that, I think that'd be tough to pull Gurney through.
Tom, is that a motion to deny?
Yes, it is. Well, when we're done discussing, if we move to that point.
Do you guys have any further comments?
Guess not.
Okay, if you guys could take your seats, I think we want to talk about this up here. Well, I guess I'd like to express my frustration with the situation where we have people just down the street from this residence that have exactly the same thing. And this is going to come up again and again, and I wish that there were some other way to deal with it. On the other hand, as Alderman Nicholson would point out, we do have an ordinance. And it just puts us between a rock and a hard place. I will say that, just as my little rant, it does seem as if we are the ones that have to solve this problem. And I hate to have us be the guys that have to deal with neighbors or people who find it inconvenient and can take their vendettas to us, and have us be the resolution and the means by which things get resolved. That's my rant on the situation. I'm sure you'll hear it again. I've given it once or twice already.
Well,
Go ahead.
okay, I don't see it as a vendetta, okay? The fact that somebody brought this out, okay, they have the right to do that. My concern, and I would have no heartburn at all, if the city went up and down Edgewood, and for every one of those spots where the sidewalk was in front of the door, it comes out.
It's
Depends on the
exact-
circumstance, because some of them have the wheelchair.
I know.
That's understandable, but.
I know. But in what Tom is bringing up is exactly my problem with the fact that there is no other enforcement other than us.
Right.
I agree, that would be the ideal situation where the city would come through and raise the issue in each case if there had not been a variance that had been allowed on that property at any time in the past. For those situations, we have a blanket approach. Then I'd feel a whole lot better than having to deal with these piecemeal like we're doing.
I think that, this is a challenging situation. I don't appreciate the petitioners coming twice to the table here and talking about this. I think the alleys we've got here is to say yes, to say no, or to say something like table it and ask, the department or the council to revisit this issue where you've got either a significant nonconformity on a street and say, hey, it can all go this way, or to reassert the existing standard. And I think, listening to you, Alderman Nicholson, you would not be in favor of increasing the amount of paved, front yards in that neighborhood right now. And I don't know that from an enforcement perspective, if, the inspectors would have significant leverage in order to be able to undo some of the mistakes that have been made in the past, because, the onus might be on the city to prove that that wasn't properly done, and, somebody might have paved that 30, 40 years ago, and who knows what the records look like or would have looked like. So, it is a tough situation. So, barring that option, I'm inclined not to support the petition.
That's where I am too, by the way. As much as I ranted and raved, the ordinance is the ordinance. And there's a limit to what we can do. Yes, sir?
Just another point to make, I guess, as the petitioner was mentioning, the ordinance for the garbage can and recycle bins are required to be not viewable from the street.
Correct.
I believe that's correct.
Correct.
So in this case, with a single stall garage, which is small by today's standards for today's vehicles, given the age that the home was built, you put that inside the garage so it's not visible, that becomes an unusable parking space. I would say that the city should go along and change the ordinance so that all of the homes can have this option. I mean, otherwise you're gonna open up a can of worms, and where do the people park by eliminating this? Do they park in the yard, now it turns into mud, and you're dealing with that situation? Do they park on the road and become ticketed where they're not supposed to be parking? I mean,
Well,
denying it, I think, is
I
gonna...
agree with you. I agree with you, but we are not here to create new ordinances. That's what Alderman
Right.
Nicholson has been elected for and his colleagues. To a certain extent, we have things in the ordinances, but unless there's something egregious, it won't be solved here, is what I
I
guess.
mean,
I'm
it doesn't
saying.
affect me, obviously, but I'm just thinking from a city standpoint, it would make sense to me logically to maybe table it and go back and say, this is an ordinance, there's an obvious issue. Alderman Nicholson wants to clean this up and make it all uniform, but how can you do this and still accommodate today's needs for parking, given the situation with the size of these cans that have to be in the garage, so not visible, the size of today's vehicles?
Well, they don't have to be in the garage.
Well,
Lots of people put them behind the house.
would you logically put that behind your house, given that situation?
Not necessarily if I live there, but
Well, that's right. I mean, so you gotta put some common sense into this matter too. I'm not saying, I'm just trying to speak here. I mean, this doesn't affect me whatsoever, but
No,
unless you happen to
well,
be here for item number 2.
I'm here for a driveway, but not this
Okay.
driveway.
All right, I think there are opinions that we've all expressed. I think the board is ready to vote, so I think a motion would be in order.
I make a motion to deny the request.
Second.
The request that the Gunzas have for their variance on Edgewood Drive. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0, you did not get your variance.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
How long does the sidewalk have to be, or a walkway from the front door? How long can that be? As you step off?
I'm not sure I understand the question. What-
You step off the front stoop, how, you know, for a concrete slab there, how long, how deep can that go?
I don't think there's any limitations necessarily as long as it's used for sidewalk purposes. So you're suggesting if we remove the pavement, how much pavement do you have to remove?
Yes.
I would talk to the inspector about that and resolve that with him. I mean, there's a reasonable amount that you probably need for getting off that. Maybe it's 5 feet, I don't know, but I would work with the inspector on that. As well as the timeline of getting it removed.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was going to recommend that I could call Inspector Meaves tomorrow, have him contact the owners of the property and work out whatever they have to do to take care of the problem.
Okay, that would be good.
I can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Move on to item number 2, the Himes Hickley Drive. Good evening.
Hi. We bought the property at 27, well, this is my wife Linda.
Yes.
My name's Michael. And we bought the property at 2771 Nicolay Drive 2 months ago. And when we bought the home, the realtor and the previous owner told us that the pitch on the driveway is, it's such a nature, it's very deep, that when it's snowy and icy, cars slide down the driveway. And, you know, looking at that, I was a little concerned because to the right of our driveway, there's about a 10-foot drop-off. There's a wall between the two homes and there's a drop-off. So what we're asking for is permission to put, instead of my wife and my son, 2 cars, instead of going down the driveway, of the property. I just think
Like the
that
neighbors have.
this is only about security, and this would only be about the winter time. I have no desire to get incremental parking. This is all about security, and it's for Linda's car and my son Christopher's. I mean, the previous owner said crazy things like, make sure you open the garage door before you drive down the driveway, because he slid sideways down, and that's just ridiculous. And once again, if I have to do that, that's me, but I don't want Linda and Christopher to have to go through
And
that.
then once you get to the drive, the garage on the right, looking at the house to the right, there's another 10-foot drop. So-
Yeah, I have a picture of that drop, but, you know, it's just, it's, I'll minimize it so you can see, there's no wall to block that drop. That's what scares the heck out of me.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So if you're sliding down,
Yeah.
you still have the
Yeah,
opportunity.
those bushes aren't gonna stop you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're gonna be hoping that, right? But I mean, that's my concern is, and as I said, this is not about me. I will never park there. This is about Linda and my son Christopher.
Yeah, the neighbors have that for the same reason, is that you're.
Yeah. Well, they don't really even have
They
a
actually
driveway.
have no
Garage,
access, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that is their parking.
Okay.
But multiple neighbors along that road have that parking at the top because they have hills. Slight ones, but, you know.
We just had a construction guy working on it. We have construction people working on the house right now inside, and one of them said to me, Michael, this is a heck of a pitch. Like when if you back out of there, you're like looking down as you're backing up. He said, there's a lot of pull on this pitch, is what he said, on my truck.
So we're asking for a variance to put a asphalt parking spot there.
So you'd like to put a spot right, kind of,
Where the
Right,
grass
Just
is.
Right
mirror,
in the grass,
mirror
the guy
where
next
the
to
van
you.
is.
Yes, yes.
Yes, and we had
I actually have it.
the measurements from our
Yes.
proposal.
actually have everything right there.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, we do get a copy of that.
Okay.
So I see what you want to do. Any other questions, John, Greg, or Noel?
It looks like from this aerial photo here that that first drop-off wall, just toward the bay from your proposed parking area, looks like it extends and is the same wall that's on the neighboring property? Is that all just a single
Yes, sir.
retaining wall?
It's actually constructed different. Theirs is more rocks, and ours is kind of like a straight thing.
Okay, so there was a consistent wall
Yes.
or
It's
a
all the
break there,
same
but it's
length.
two different constructions.
Yeah,
It,
yes.
Maybe that was actually an old garage foundation there, like it used to maybe be the same, a similar configuration, just with the way,
Possibly,
the way
yeah,
it
I
looks
don't
there.
know.
Okay.
So you're gonna still maintain a green space between the roadway and the parking, or?
Yes, I
what's-
think it's 5, I don't know.
12 feet.
12 feet is what you had.
12 feet, and
Yes,
then
of
from
course.
the edge of the driveway to that drop-off was like 5.
Okay,
So there'll still be green there, and there'll be green at the street.
And then just a tow rope from the house up to the.
Yeah.
Well, we prefer to have green, we do like
Yeah.
having it because the back's all stone.
I have no
Okay.
further questions.
I don't have.
Okay, you guys could have a chair.
Thank you so much, sir.
We'll debate. Thank you.
Do we hear anything from Alderman Dorf on this?
I do not see Alderman Dorf.
Alderperson.
Yes.
What they're proposing is a fairly consistent remedy for many of the lots. What would be, I guess, the north side of Nicolay. That's a pretty sloping neck of the woods for several of them, so.
Yeah, we have dealt with these types of things before, although I think the ones that we've all dealt with have been, as Greg observed, for a garage that didn't have any other way to be a garage except right up the road. So this would be a little different. However, it strikes me as being a safety issue, and Tom, you were out there?
Yeah.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
want to drive it in winter?
No. I'll keep my place.
All right.
They maintain the green space and it's far enough removed from the principal structure that.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
think that- you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, the issue about being parked in front of your front facade, I think, is not applicable here, simply because of the distance.
I think just looking at the site, given the fact that there's a retaining wall there at all, I would bet that there used to either be a garage there or that this was a parking surface at some point in the past. The way that's laid out and continuation of that adjacent parking area and garage.
All right.
So this is probably just going back to something that had been done in the past.
Make a motion to approve the variance?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mr. Babcock, seconded by Mr. Hoy to approve the variance before us for the Heims on Nicolay Drive. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're good.
Thank you so much, sir.
Item number 3, Mr. Vandenhoven on Durham Road. All righty.
I should have stepped in for permits from you, Chair.
Yes, sir.
Not tonight, though. right?
Nope.
No.
Okay, 8 o'clock tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one of you gets to make the case.
I'm the builder, I guess I'll make the case.
All right?
The house is set, and the width of the front of the garage is like 27 feet, and that's standard for us to pour a driveway, the width of the front of that garage to the roadway. They added a 1-foot border, and I don't have a picture, I should have brought a picture, but they added a 1-foot border along the side of the driveway on either side, which is what put us the 2 foot past what we should be. It's purely decorative. There's a street, the house directly across the street has a 3-wide driveway all the way to the road, which is 32 foot wide. I'm assuming they got a variance at some point in time. And I'm pretty sure I didn't go measure and check any other ones, but I know there's other driveways in that subdivision that are also wider than the 25-foot requirement at the right-of-way, at the property line. So we're just asking that you be allowed to leave it, to have it's been poured, so we don't have to go back and remove it.
You're the contractor?
I am the home builder, I didn't pour the concrete, that was our,
Who takes responsibility for not checking with the city regarding the 25 feet and 30 feet?
we hired the concrete contractor, he knows the rules, we know the rules, we weren't there when he poured it, they set it up and pour it. So I put the onus on him.
Okay.
Oh, it's in already?
It's in, it's
Okay.
done. They're living in the home. This is a new construction, so.
And I'm sorry, I missed, I didn't quite understand what you're saying about a foot decorative thing. What was the, what is it that
I
actually
wish I had
occurred?
a picture, but.
Do you have, you built the garage wider or
The
something?
garage is, it's a 3-stall garage, and, let's see if I pull the
The
plan.
driveway has a 1-foot border on each side that is actually brushed a different way, the normal way up and down, but then it brushed to the outside. And there's a groove in the middle, or in that border.
So there's like a decorative edge to the
Yeah,
driveway is what
It
you're
doesn't have any
saying?
stamping on it or anything. but-
Okay.
Yeah, but it is a decorative thing that,
And that added additional.
right.
That is a foot on either side.
I think you can see it right here.
Yeah, there's the picture, so that's the home.
The edges, it's kind of the same color, but the edges right there. You can see the
Right.
the joint.
This.
And that's 2 feet 6 inches in total of additional width, or is-
Yeah, because from this line to this line over here, we have 25 foot, maybe 25 and change, but, because the overall is 27.6. And it was a little bit wide here, he's got a parking pad over there to make it easier for getting in and out of. If you pinch this down to 25 feet, that really bottlenecks it, makes it difficult to maneuver anything over there. And that's the other one was directly across the street.
Straight across, yes.
and that's 30?
That's 32 feet wide. It's a common thing we run into when we're building homes with 3-stall garages. The setbacks that are allowed and the widths of the driveways, you get this weird bottleneck situation. And you try to accommodate the homeowner and the ordinances, so you're,
But you didn't accommodate the ordinance, did you? Mr. Contractor?
no, we did not accommodate the ordinance.
Was the plan that you submitted to the city
It met.
shown in violation
No,
that way?
it all met, our curb cuts the correct size, everything met accordingly. Like I said, we weren't on site when the concrete contractor poured.
Okay.
He knows the ordinances, he does a lot of work in Green Bay, it's KPC Construction, or Keith Grove Construction. So he was fully aware. But it ended up being 27.6.
Okay, so the plan you guys saw, you approve a plan when when there's an application for a permit.
There's a site plan and a building.
The
plan.
site plan you saw was,
I didn't see one of our inspectors reviews
Yeah,
that.
yeah, okay.
They're pretty extensive now with all the erosion control stuff that we need to supply.
Yeah,
So
right.
that
all
the
those
site
little
plans are
holes.
very extensive that you need to submit.
Okay, so the only hardship you're offering here is the need to get rid of the concrete and do something different than you already got.
Correct, it would,
Well, if you have to, can you go back to the other picture of the, if they have to cut part of this out to narrow it back up, in essence, I mean, you cut out from where this line is, so this is the property line, so you would really only have to cut from here to here. And that would look kind of silly aesthetically, so, if it was mine, I'd want to cut it all the way back, so it's the same, but that ruins, that gets away from what the appearance was the customer wanted.
and just to add a little thing, I have a camper, and that's what's going to be intended to go there. On a previous picture across the street, you can see up the road, there's probably 5, 6 campers all parked in front, where this will be more aesthetically pleasing because the camper will be tucked off to the side, not all winter or anything like that, but it'll definitely enhance that street, being able to back up in there. My previous house had a 12-foot wide side pad for a camper, and that was hard to back into without driving on the grass. So I'm actually very happy with this. Obviously, I didn't realize the ordinance violation, but it will definitely make the street look better without a camper parked out front like most of the neighbors up the street. That's just an opinion.
Other questions? Tom, Greg, Noel? Okay, if you guys could have a chair, we'll deliberate amongst ourselves.
Thank you.
Thoughts?
I have to tell you, when I was looking at the one on Nicolay, right? That's right at the junction of Davis, or Davies Street, okay? So I head up Davies Street and then I go to Durham, which is a fairly long ways to go. And once I get to Durham, I turn left and I go to his property. I saw one residence that had a vehicle parked on the side, like he has. So the pad being to the side of the house is a fairly unique configuration. I would agree with him. It's very presentable, but it's pretty unique too. As far as the, I took the picture of the driveway right across from theirs. I mean, I won't say they're all like that.
No, they're not ours, but there's a
No.
good number of them that are.
There's a few. Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna be the only one on the block, but by and large, many of them are conforming to code. So that's what I have to say is wherever we want to
I'm
go.
against. If anybody wants to make a motion.
Just looking at this, I do think that if, you were gonna narrow it 2.6 feet, taking it off the right-hand side here probably makes more sense than on the left-hand side where you've got a straight line going up to the house, because you've already got a curve there and you just gotta re-engineer that. At the same time, here we were just talking about an issue where there are people trying to park 4 cars in front of a duplex, and here we've got one that you can have 4 cars in front of a single-family home. It's just, different scale, different nature here. That being said, this wasn't a let's make the driveway wider without a permit to put additional cars parked here in the front yard. I mean, the most you're gonna be able to put in there is a skateboard or something like that in terms of the extra width. Not to say let's let something go just because it was done improperly, but again, I can kind of see how they got there, and I'm not sure it's necessary to undo 2 feet 6 inches in this circumstance. But
This is new construction. It should have been.
it should have been done the right. It should be
correctly.
done the right way. Absolutely.
It should have been done correctly. I have no sympathy whatsoever, especially after what we just did to the first people up here.
True.
I'll make a motion to deny the variance.
I'll second.
We have a motion made and seconded to deny the variance request for the property on Durham. All in favor? Aye. Did I hear 4?
Yep.
Yes. 4-0, you did not get a variance.
Thank you for your time.
Yep. Next, item number 4 is Stumos.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm James, and this is my wife, Aletta.
And you have a garage to talk to us about.
Yes. The property at 338 South Clay, the property line was drawn simply to encompass the garage. And the garage was in such a poor state that it had to come down. It was a safety hazard and it was not rebuildable. So,
It's important to tell them we just purchased the property.
Yeah, we
So we
did.
purchased the property, and when we purchased it, we thought we had space around. But when we talked to the inspector, about a week before we purchased, we thought we better talk to him and see what we can have, can't have. And he said, oh, no. You can have a permit to raise. That's what you can have. But not to rebuild, because you're too close to the line. So on the north side, we do have 2 feet, but on the back of it and on the south side, we do not have 2 feet. So we have 2 options. We can put a shed there and just live with not having a garage, which I really don't like in this world. you know, we love our cars. Or we can go back to what it was. So we had the concrete removed, the concrete pad it was on was in as bad a shape as the structure above it, and was not correctly done. There was no rebar in it. It was not good. So that's all been removed. So right now it is just level dirt.
So that's the old garage that we can
That
see on
is.
the right there.
That is.
And your proposal is to put in another new one, same size, same place.
Yes.
And we did approach the owner of 1025 Crooks about purchasing an extra 2 feet on 2 sides. And he said, no, he was not able to sell any property at the time because it's on the market. We've now learned that it's actually in foreclosure. So he's not able to sell us land that would have allowed us to get around getting a variance.
Are you familiar with when this would have been made, this change would have been made to accommodate the garage? That is,
That house
at
says
first
on
I
the
thought there was a
plat-
mistake, and then I
No,
saw that
no.
it's real.
No, on the plat, that house is said to be 1848, but the style is not 1848. The style is about 1905 to 1910. So from what we can tell, this may have been the original house. If we go back to the plat map, and then the 2 houses on Crooks, 1029 and 1025, we believe were carved out of 338's land.
Oh, that's good.
Because when you stand in the backyard of what would be the backyard of ours, but is actually 1025, it shares the back door it shares the backyard. I think they had a common garden. I think they built 1025 and they built 338, or 338 was already there. It was probably relatives, they had a common garden, so they didn't bother with zoning. What did it matter to them?
But somebody went to the trouble to make that little joke.
Somebody did.
Well, it's, and they may have all owned it in common at one point,
Yes.
and then
And then
just
that-
built it, and then at some point they
Yes.
started selling them off piecemeal, and then they had to address the
Yeah, I think
garage.
that's what's happened.
Exactly, that's what we think happened, but of course, we don't know. I mean, I haven't been able to read the city documents.
Back there somewhere, but
Yeah,
Only
it
if
would
you're-
take quite a lot.
only if you're really interested in ancient history would you do that. Okay, I think I understand things. Tom, Greg, or Noel, any other questions for these people?
No.
Okay, if you guys could have a seat, we'll deliberate amongst ourselves.
No issue at all.
What's that?
I think we're in violent agreement again, unless you're.
To grant that.
To grant it?
Yes.
Yeah, this is one of those things where, I mean, you look at the shape of the lot, it's a weird thing. This is something I think, you know, if it had been if this parcel was 338 and went back further and, you know, and we were looking at something, we'd say, no, you got plenty of yard space to do it, but this is just kind of an odd duck property, and I think this is making it right. I do think that there are gonna be folks, for over the years, as some of these garages age, where they're facing the decision, geez, should we tear it down, or do we gotta rebuild it from the inside out so that we never tear it down, because we'll never be able to get it permitted to put it back in place? And I think that's one of the challenges you face here, and in this case, it's just saying, yeah, you can put up the exact same footprint as you had before, basically, but so that we're not, you know, moving one way or the other, you're just getting the garage back.
Several people did suggest doing that, but when he went to inspect it, he went up on the roof and his leg went through the roof. And then he went, the concrete's all cracked and the roof is totally.
Sure.
I can't.
Yeah, and I think
we
that street view you had,
couldn't
too,
Support
you could-
3 walls to replace.
Right.
Yeah,
And I think I can see the tilt in the garage
It's a little
from
tilted,
here,
yeah.
so.
Yeah, actually, it was kind of like this.
They twist.
It was
yeah.
twisted, yeah. There was nothing about that garage that was salvageable to start a rebuild, because somebody had, the south and west sides have low retaining walls that had been poured directly onto the side of the garage. And so water had seeped down in, and the entire sill was completely
Rotted away.
rotted away.
Yep.
It was,
I
it
know
was
what you're talking
lovely
about.
compost.
Noel knows plenty about exactly your situation. That's what he does, so.
I'm sorry.
Oh, don't feel sorry for
No,
him.
no.
We've had to go through.
All right. Violent agreement. Let's have a motion.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Halverson has moved to approve. We approve the Stumo variance. Mr. Hoy has seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're good.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Mr. Plessig and Mr. Erforth.
Yes, and we have a question. Would the chair prefer us to put things on an easel or just sit in front of you and lay it on the table?
Yeah, just sit in front of us and lay it on the table.
Very good. I'm hoping you'd say that.
I think we've seen you all before.
You have, well, we are locals. I've been in the business 30 years, and Joel, a little younger than me, but.
Wow.
This project in itself may look familiar to you.
Yes, like a couple months back.
Just to bring everybody back up to speed on what we were looking at. This is over on Sitka Street, immediately west of McCullough Park. Mr. Dan Schmidt owns the property, and putting in a...
I'm his architect,
Oh,
and
I'm-
Joel is his civil engineer.
Civil engineer. So,
Boy, you must have a wall.
I do. I can't deny it. This has been a lot of fun.
Okay.
it's a once in a lifetime.
Commentary
career type
aside,
of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's get down to business.
So anyway, he's building a large pool, and both indoor and outdoor, and he had a couple of garages added on to the gentleman's house. This was all, we got a variance to exceed the accessory square footage last, I think that was last spring or
Pretty
late last
recent.
fall.
I can remember it anyway, so it's gotta be close.
But, so the project's underway, it's under construction, things are going well, and Mr. Schmidt's...
Could I just point out what actually is underway?
Sure.
And so I'll use this one because it's a little better drawing than that. So this is scheduled to be complete by the end of the year. We're working on the inside of it right now. It is a cabana for the pool area that we were here with last time about. And so that is well underway. This is done. This is a guest house to the primary residence here. And what we're looking at tonight is this structure here, and you're probably wondering what that is. Both of these two, both this and this, are for Dan's private car collection. This houses his private car collection now, and he would like to expand his collection into this area. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of a reference.
All right, good.
So that being said, we kind of blew it up a little bit for you to show the accessory uses. If you remember last fall, it's going to be some false rock work and so forth in the pool. The pool surface is actually considered an accessory use from a square footage standpoint. So this drawing kind of breaks it down. Here's the drawing we just looked at, just isolated with the structure. So essentially what we're asking for this evening is for Mr. Schmidt to be able to consolidate his collection on his own property at his house. It would be an additional 8,200, just shy of 8,300 square feet of additional accessory use. So that's the first variance we're requesting. The other one is by Green Bay ordinance, your fence around a pool can be 8 feet high. And so we're requesting that be extended to 10 feet high. Okay? Now, the wall we'd like to extend to try to reduce the attractive nuisance feature. Fear is as word gets out that this is kind of a unique project at anyone's house.
I would just say it is a unique.
It's a unique project. And we started looking at it, an 8 foot high, somebody theoretically could reach that high, and be able to pull themselves up and look in, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So we thought by increasing it to essentially the side height of a basketball hoop, most folks, yeah, if you're like my vertically challenged self, there's no way you're gonna reach a 10 foot height. But to extend that up a couple of additional feet, we thought would be helpful. And then the other variance on this would allow Mr. Schmidt to consolidate and keep on his own property, so he wouldn't have to do like a, mini storage, which are popping up all over the place and that sort of thing. So, to kind of go through this is a unique project, and it's really kind of a unique piece of property. Mr. Schmidt owns all 3 of these parcels out on Sitka. Oh, yeah, he owns that one, he owns several parcels, but on this side of Sitka, he owns all 3. The residence is limited to this parcel 2152, which is approximately 25 acres. And so we realize, that accessory use square footage is a bigger number, but, in fact, when you compare it to, say a 1,200 square foot garage on a, 13, 1,400, or 13 or 14,000 square foot residential lot, similar to, a normal lot. The percentage isn't anywhere near what you anticipate. Even with all the improvements, including the house and all the accessory uses, we're still only about 7% of what is, total land use on this property. So it's very unique in that way that you don't see a lot of large residential, lots in the city of Green Bay itself, or in the city proper. We've made quite a few concerted efforts. Mr. Schmidt's a very private person. We talked about last time. The front of the house is about 800 feet from Sitka, and the trail that most people would use is about 800 feet this way. There is some mountain biking back in here, which you have a death wish if you've ever been back there. That thing is
I've been back there.
crazy steep, so I can
Not
imagine
on a
I can't imagine riding a bike back there. But anyway, so most people wouldn't even see this. We've made some efforts. We've lowered the pitch of the house so you won't see it from the front, or from the street. What we did is we actually...
Well, you just brought up the lowering of the pitch. So what I did architecturally is most of the, almost the entire house has a 10-12 pitch. So what I did was, I went up for 10-12 only for about 12 feet in height, and then I reduced the pitch to 6-12, again, to just hold the top of the building down. And that was the purpose of that, and the purpose of this drawing is to show you that. Joel's got some actual pictures, though.
Yeah, we went out and took photos, and these little, I think this is in your packets. These points, this is where the photos were taken from. So this is a construction entrance. That's what the house, that's your view of the house. This is from Mr. Schmidt's driveway. He's got this decorative, masonry wall in front, gate. So the house is very, very limited visibility. This is from the ball diamonds, figuring that's where probably, if you're in the park, that's probably about as close as you most likely get. Again, it's very indistinguishable. It's back here. And then this point was up on this trail, which again has very, very limited public access. But the point being, this fence is going to extend to about here. And the other thing we tried to do architecturally is from the side, if you're standing on this side, for example, backing up, you aren't going to see it from the street, from the south, or really from the west. So your really only views.
Effort to hide it.
Yeah, the only views you're going to get are from the north and the east. And if you look at it from this standpoint, you're going to see a ridge line of a roof, so it's going to be slightly larger than what you would have seen before. And from this view, you're just going to see those roof lines, and again, it's hidden behind this, hopefully 10-foot high, but at least 8-foot high wall. So from a neighborhood impact standpoint, we feel it'll be very, very minimal. I don't really think you'd even see it. And the fence, what we're proposing for the fence.
I'm just drawing a sketch, and one of the reasons that, if you remember when we were here last time, we had this rock surface, we had the lazy river, and we had a slide. And it was turned. And when we took your comments into consideration about the attractive nuisance, I actually had never heard that term. I should have probably, being as old as I am. But the more we thought about it, there's a fair amount of land that this rock work doesn't exist. And if this is 10 and somebody is 6 feet tall, is that, do we want to cut off that line of sight? And the more we talked to the owner about what was said in our last meeting here, is he said, yes, I don't want people to even see what's going on and get the idea that they could climb my fence. And so I put those drawings together, and I brought the materials that I'm intending on using, because if I'm sitting on your side of the table, and I have in the past, I can understand what you might be thinking. And one of the things that I'd be wondering is, what are they building this fence on? I'd say this is a ultra good neighbor fence. You can see that both sides are using decorative materials. This is the actual brick that is on Dan's house, everywhere on his house. And you can see where I'm using split face block is the larger. Then I'm trimming it and putting in every pilaster, I'm putting the actual brick from the house. I'm starting with a base of limestone, which is also on the house, and then capping the wall and the pilasters again with limestone to give it a very attractive appearance on both sides. And so I thought it would be important, I know that you normally don't request materials, but I thought it would be important to see that we're making every effort to make it an attractive fence.
Just to make sure I understand, this little piece here?
That is the
Is all
split
of
face
this-
block.
is all of
Yeah.
this stuff, right?
Sorry for the computer
Okay.
colors didn't do me
They don't
justice.
translate very well, so we thought we'd bring
All right,
in
all right. I
actual
see.
samples.
Yeah, this is an integral color masonry product, and the color goes all the way through it, so you don't have to paint it, and you don't have to maintain it, and we wanted to pick something that was a good blend to the brick from the house. So, I don't know if there's anything else.
So we have too high a fence and maybe too much extra accessory strips. That's it. And I think we approved a fence last time about the same way.
Well, the accessory, the rock wall, I think, was approved to be much higher.
That's right, it was the rock wall.
Yep,
Yeah.
it was this
within-
part, and and just in full disclosure, because Dan's my client, he said, well, when my grandkids grow up, I may want to take this down, and then I want a nice looking fence to look at. So we're actually going to be, for a portion of the property, burying that beautiful fence behind this, but that may only be around for X amount of time, and then that might be removed, and we wanted to have good appearance on both sides.
The variance last time was for the accessory use square footage, mostly related to the pool and
Yep.
and the rock wall.
Yep.
And then to be able to put the accessory use within 4 feet, and that's what.
That's right.
That's what that
That's right.
was.
That's what
An
you wanted to
8-foot
go
high
all the way up
fence
to
is
the
compliant.
lot line.
So he has collector cars now?
He
that
has a
stores
private
there?
collection now.
Okay.
If you still have that
I think it's on-
underneath here. Yeah, he has a private collection now, and he would like to add to his private collection.
Okay.
Yeah, we can look at both of them. Those cars are housed here. He's going to have an opening between the two,
Okay.
and he would like to add to his collection. Now, he doesn't have a dense collection. He likes to display those cars for his friends and his family. So it's not like there's a ton of cars in here, but he prefers to display them nicely, because they are some one-of-a-kind cars.
And these are climate, this isn't like a
Air con-
storage garage. It's
air
climate
conditions.
controlled. It's
Sure.
really.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Very
sure.
nice. I would live here if this was mine. My wife would like me to live
Yes,
here.
we should all be so lucky to live in his guest house. His
Well,
garage.
show me a little bit where the 10-foot fence is gonna be. I'm not
So,
clear on that.
very good question, Tom. So, I'll show all of you. We're going to create that fence with the pilasters you see here with the squares. We're going to connect it to, if approved, to this new garage right here. And so there'll be a gate there, and then that will continue around the north property line and connect again with a gate and the same masonry wall back to what we will be building is that pool addition. If you remember that whole thing, where this is an indoor pool, this is the outdoor stuff, but we'll be connecting at both of those places, again, trying to keep anybody that decides, hey, I'm gonna jump the fence. So we wanted to make, for safety reasons, completely contain the water feature at those 2 points with gates.
So it's gonna go from here,
It's gonna start there, Tom, right there at the garage.
Okay.
And end right into the corner of the pool addition.
okay, and help me, what's back here?
This is Baird's Creek.
That's the parkway.
This is the property line. This dark black line.
I think it shows on the.
Okay, no, I'm good with this.
And there is a chain link fence on the other half, it's just not,
It's just not as elaborate. It's a aluminum, black aluminum fence. Is that in some of your pictures?
yeah, it's in, it's there.
Oh, yeah.
So that,
And
that
that would
wall will
start
go
there.
to about approximately here. So this would be fence, this would be this newer fence.
What would you say your intentions are going to downstream out here?
I'm thinking Dan is, I shouldn't, this is maybe discriminatory. Dan is older than I am. I think this, for this property, will be the end, because you can see, we've got the drainage work that we need to do for all this property here, so we can't go any further that way. You can see that we are within 3 feet of the building setback here, so we can't go any further this way. And if you've seen the front of this, I can't imagine him tearing any of that down. And
Here's the front. It's all landscaped, it's very
it's
nice.
ponded and, not ponded, but very nicely bermed and landscaped, so I can't imagine him going forward.
So normally a fence would have a height of 6 feet.
Residential fence, yes.
Right.
With a
So-
pool, it could go up to 8 feet.
So the pool is justifying the increase to 8.
Right. And we're asking
As
to
it
go
affects the pool, yeah.
24 inches more than the ordinance, for the reasons that we've talked about.
They have had some concerns about people coming up from the back. I mean, they
Yeah.
have had police calls. They're, I can see where they're a little worried about that, because there is nothing, you know, like they said, that the trail part is down here. But if old me could actually climb the hill and come past over here, then anybody else could too. So there is a security issue that I can understand for that area. In other words, way down here on whatever that is, Superior, I've seen squad cars, and I know that they were going back in here because of some concerns and complaints that Mr. Schmidt had. So
He has had people, you know, just standing out there in his backyard
I believe
at
it.
times. And, you know, that would, I guess, scare any of us, but.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like it's your neighbor behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you can trust your neighbor, at least I like to think you can.
Right.
Yeah, so he's kind of exposed to the wild in that regard. Well, I think
Well,
it's a
it's a
very.
park,
It's a park.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
People
nothing
use
against
parks,
park,
you know.
right.
But this is more of a parking park.
Well,
This is
I was hiking in there yesterday.
Yep.
So it's a park.
It's a nice
Yeah,
area.
and nothing against people using parks. It's not what we're saying.
Further questions?
Not for me.
I think I'm good.
I guess I have a question. Has the indoor pool begun construction yet?
Well, that'll be the next subject that, once we know what the answer is tonight, we're prepared to either yet this week or early next week, talk to you about that schedule.
Okay. I just want the board to understand that you granted a variance previously for the very same variance, and it included the pool addition here, which is about 10,000 square feet. So this has not been constructed yet, so this is not part of a principal use yet, so to speak. The second variance now includes this 8,000 square foot addition, but this is still not being constructed. Just so you have clear knowledge that, you know, you're
Right.
granting a variance multiplying the accessory use without having
And Paul
more
is,
principal use.
I guess I'm the closest to these conversations with Dan, so I'll address that, and I think Paul is absolutely correct in bringing that up. I can assure you, and that's only as good as my word, and it's only as good as Dan's word, is that we are moving, and Dan has spending many, many thousands of dollars moving forward on the drawings for that building. We are not finalized on the drawings yet, but we've hired Newman Pools, and we've hired ADCI, the water park architects out of Wisconsin Dells, and we've spent a lot of money with both. So Dan wanted me to tell you and Paul that he is going forward with that pool addition. That is not the question. But there was a delay in starting the construction, and I don't want to get into all the reasons for the delay, but there was a delay from a Public Works point of view that put us back, set us back some. And it sounds like I'm making excuses. All I can do is assure you that the pool addition is going forward.
It's a long project. I mean, it's a very detailed buildings, and from a constructability standpoint, because this side is our stormwater management system, and it's a biofilter, and it's got a lot of grade to it. So you can't access this side of the site from this side of the property. So everything's got to come through here. So we're working. They're working on pouring this now. So they're trying to work their way back out. And if we built this guy,
It would be in our way.
it'd be in the way. So we got a lot, we were delayed, I won't be as sugarcoated, we were delayed months trying to come up with a system to filter water. And it set the construction sequence back. And, obviously, winter's coming a lot quicker than a lot of us wanted. But, so we're trying to work our way back out. And it's on you'll probably see it next week. It's in my bag, actually, if you want to see it, the request to extend the conditional use permit that we received for the indoor pool. We haven't submitted it because obviously this has a bearing on what we do over here, and again, try to work our way
Yeah, I
back
think
out
that,
here.
where's the drawing that shows the construction, oh, right here. So you can see that this construction road is gonna be removed, but if we put a structure in the way, then we can't get this completed, and we're coordinating the outside water pools with the inside. We're really only talking about an extension of months, but when you think about when the permit's only good for 12 months, if you're in construction, 12 months in Wisconsin almost isn't long enough to build anything. So it's not because we don't want to do it, it's because we're trying to get it done.
And they're not, our defense again, but they're not independent systems because the mechanical systems for the indoor-outdoor pool are housed in the indoor pool facility.
So they both have to
There's a lot
happen
of
at the same
details to
time.
work out, so.
The pumps and things are going to be in the pool addition.
How is it that you're proposing to how do the cars get into the new?
Well, that's a good question.
It shows on it.
Yeah, I should.
It's proposed, this isn't.
Well-
This is proposed at this.
Right, but they can get in two ways, here or through the existing private collection.
How do you get into the existing?
You can drive right through.
Oh, okay.
Right through. This is a little bit of a courtyard between the guest house and the main house, and so
there's an
there's
entry
3
there.
doors
Okay.
that go into there and then continue on, and then there's 2 locations here.
Are we good, guys?
Yeah, I've got some questions for Paul.
Go ahead.
Do you want us to take a seat, or?
Yeah, why not?
So Paul, why are we seeing this as a variance request rather than like some planned unit zoning development or something like that, where they just take care of all of the project as a PURD?
Well, this is an R1 property, I don't know if it would warrant a PUD necessarily. There's a lot of moving parts, and I think they keep moving. And I think that's why they've come back for some of these variances.
But that seems to me like an opportunity for the planning staff to work directly with the developer and get it just so, whereas here, they're coming with a sequence of variances that, frankly, I don't see the hardship, so it's like how.
Yeah, I don't know that we could capture those at any point in time. We've been working on this year and a half or more, and if we talked about this a year ago, I don't think we could have captured all the stuff that they're proposing tonight.
Right.
In an ordinance, nice and neat, so, again, I don't think it's justified to do a PUD. I think they're puttering along, knocking them off one by one, and in this case, it's another roadblock, and they have to come back for variance.
Yeah, and I guess I gotta say, gentlemen, I mean, I don't see, it's exciting development, don't get me wrong. From a builder standpoint, I'd love to see it and watch it and be a part of it, but I don't see the hardship here per se. And to look at this, I think it's exactly what, like, the planned unit process would be for, to say, let's envision this entire thing, how it's gonna deviate from what the zoning is, and then just encode it. And if there needs to be adjustments to it, to have those adjustments made, talked about at staff, and then vetted at a plan commission meeting, as opposed to Board of Appeals considering whether we should go from a 6-foot fence to a 10-foot fence or something like that. This seems not the right venue for dealing with this. It seems to me like it should be a planned expanse that then goes through the formal planning process, not the appeals process. Because I'm gonna have a tough time saying, voting for it, because I don't see the hardship.
I'll disagree. I think there's, the hardship in terms of the privacy concern. And in the scope of what we're looking at here, where it's located, what he's looking to do in terms of protecting the cars, I don't have an issue with it. Yeah, so I would support a motion to approve it.
Yeah, I'll just say that, I know where Noel's coming from. Strictly speaking, it's awkward for us, but I guess I've become more accustomed to, it's my rant earlier in the evening, it does seem like everything flows down to us sometimes, and this is another case where there may not have been a correct alignment of other factors, and this is one way to deal with it. I guess I'm okay with that, and I'm okay with the project.
Now, I know you're from Green Bay. Are you from Green Bay?
I grew up in Sheboygan. Not that it matters, I imagine, for this.
Well, it's got a little journey. I moved here in '74, okay? And at that point in time, there was, I believe it was the Murphy Estate. It's a little bit south of where Brennan Buick used to be. And it was probably 2 square city blocks.
I know what you're getting at. It was very nicely sized.
It was really, it was big. It was at least 2 city blocks.
Yeah, I know the property you're talking about.
Okay, and this property has a wrought iron fence all the way around it. First time I saw that property, there were 2 houses on it, okay, back in '74. And I think it's germane because we're talking probably forever here, okay, when we're talking about walls. And as that property became developed, it was originally 2 brick houses with red tile roofs, then there was a carriage house, and I literally saw that thing just grow, and now this whole area is full of fairly upscale houses.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I arrived in '85. I'm familiar with the development.
Okay, all right. So, which is why I was kind of wondering.
I was on the planning staff when this property was initially contended with in terms of its development prospects and some of the ins and outs of that Sitka Road development.
So where I'm kind of going with it is that we're looking at today, and we're looking at fairly high fence. I'm not too concerned about the building because he's got a lot of property, but I am a little concerned about the height of the fence. Because to say that fence, if you look where it's going, I think it's kind of a stretch to say it's for the pool. I think it's for the whole back of the property and parts of the other perimeters. So I'm having a little bit of trouble having such a high fence.
It's not, let's stop calling it a fence, it's a wall.
Wall, right,
You know, it's a 10-foot wall
right.
at the edge of a park. But again, my comment isn't about whether the owner of this property ought to have the things that they want to have here. More power to them. I'm more concerned, I don't think this is the right channel. I don't think an appeal process for a variance from the zoning code makes sense here. I think the scale of this project is unprecedented.
But it's
This-
in front of us.
And I'm going to vote no if you ask me to vote on it. I'm just saying, the scale of this project's unprecedented. I think this should be a special planning project that gets put together and put to bed and goes through the plan commission process opposed to the Board of Appeals process.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to, I appreciate what you're grappling with. From our perspective, we would like you to divide the two issues if possible, if you are so inclined, Mr. Chair, because the two issues aren't necessarily connected. We have brought both of them to you because this is the avenue we're told to bring them to you with. Now, I can appreciate your concerns, but this is the avenue that we are told to take. But the two asks are different. They're really not even connected. They so happen to be on the same property. The wall really does not have a bearing on the garage. So if you do want to divide the issue, that's up to you, Mr.
Oh,
Chair.
no, we can do that, and that may be.
I just wanted to-
That may be a way to get out of here tonight.
I'm just saying that we're willing to
And
be,
that was always the intent. We didn't.
I didn't
fill out
know
two
that.
applications. It was,
Sure.
we were requesting two variants.
So there's two variances, right. We can vote on either one.
I think, Bill, you raise a really good point.
I think that talking about the scale of this development and a 10-foot wall on the edge of a public property and the character of this fits into that community on that side, that's a plan commission discussion. This isn't four guys sitting at a table with a developer, you know, in an empty room. That's not how we should be making some of these decisions, in my opinion. As a community.
I'm sorry, could I say one more thing?
Yep, yep.
And again, I don't disagree, and we would have taken that route if told, but because of what we just got done talking about in getting out of this property and getting the pool addition started, those horses may have left the barn for us. I don't disagree. Next time we go through this, we'll go through that way, but because of where we are today, it would really create an issue for us then getting things started.
Yeah, and I appreciate your position, and of course you're going to go the way the staff is going to direct you in terms of moving a development forward. I get that. I'm just saying, from the standpoint of being at Board of Appeals, I can't see the hardship.
And I'm asking you to look at the uniqueness, not necessarily the hardship.
Motion would be in order, and I suggest that we do,
Okay.
as he suggested, consider them separately.
I'll start with the building. I'll make a motion to approve the variance as it relates to the building.
As a chair, I can second, so I will. We have a motion made by Mr. Babcock, seconded by me, to approve the variance requested for the Schmidt property regarding the additional accessory structure. Did I phrase that correctly, Paul?
Yes.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
I oppose.
Okay, 2-2. That variance is not approved. You may consider the second one.
I'll make a motion to approve the fence or the wall as it relates to that variance.
Once again, I'll step in as chair and second. We have a motion made by Mr. Babcock, seconded by me, to approve the variance requested for the Schmidt property regarding the 10-foot wall as described to us. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
I oppose.
We came to 2-2. are required by the rules that we have to have gotten a majority before you did not get either variance.
Is there a suggestion of what we can or should do next in light of the comments that were made?
We've done our job.
Okay.
I think your next is to take it up with the planning staff. The next official step to appeal the decision by this board is the court.
Or to find an alternate path with planning staff.
Is planning staff willing to find an alternate course?
We can talk about it, sure.
I guess we'll talk tomorrow. Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'll make unless there's anything else, make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, we have motion made and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0, we're adjourned.